Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachos, 65b. We're actually in the middle of a very interesting exchange between Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and a Baituzian concerning the Omer, and I'm not sure I get it exactly what the retort was. I don't know why this was an answer on the part of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he said it was an 11-day journey from Chorev. I'm very familiar with that verse. I used to say it all the time, but in one of my counting projects. But I'm not sure how that answers the Baituzian. But let's just go over the story again. It's very interesting. Okay, so the Baituzians say that from the 8th of Nisan until the end of the festival of Passover, the correct date for the the 8th of Nisan until the end of the festival of Passover, the correct date of Shavuot was restored, and similarly. Okay, I'm sorry. The Baituzians would say that the festival of Shavuot always occurs after Shabbat on a Sunday. The reasoning was that the verse states, with regard to the Omer offering and the festival of Shavuot, it follows 7 weeks later, and you shall count for you from the morrow after the day of rest, after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf, the Omer of the waving. 7 weeks shall there be complete. Leviticus 23:15. Disregarding the oral tradition, the Baituzians interpret the phrase from the morrow after the day of the Shabbat. Literally, it has to be Shabbat. If it's not after the Shabbat, like immediately after, then you don't do it. So, apparently, what we're saying is that there's an oral tradition that after the Shabbat doesn't have to mean after the 7th day. It can mean after any festival day. So if the festival day was on a Tuesday, then you count Tuesday night. It's after the Shabbat of the festival, meaning the Shabbat is considered a festival, even though it's not the 7th day of the week. It could be the 3rd day of the week. It's still considered a Shabbat with regard to counting the Omer. And that's how we do today. So, Nitpa lahem Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai v'amar lehen shoitim. Okay, so I'll just cut to the English because I read this already in last off. At that time, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai joined the discussion with the Baituzians. He said to them, "Fools, from where have you derived this?" And there was no man who answered him except for one elderly man who was prattling at him. I'm not sure what prattling, does that mean like taunting? I get that kind of vibe, but I want to know for sure. Prattling, meaning, what does it mean, prattling? Prattling is talk at length in a foolish or inconsequential way. Chatter, babble. Okay, ramble. Okay. God, I didn't know what that word is. So, there was one elderly man, apparently of the Baituzians, was prattling at him. And he said, "Moses, our teacher, was a lover of the Jewish people, and he knew that Shavuot is only one day. Therefore he arose and established it after Shabbat in order that the Jewish people would enjoy themselves for 2 days." Oh, okay, I get it now. Basically, if Shavuot is only after Shabbat, then it's always going to be a Shabbat followed by a Shavuot. I'm not sure how they would do that, though, if it doesn't come out each year that way. I don't get their logic. But anyway, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai recited this verse in response to him, that old man who was prattling, this old Baituzian. He said, "It is 11 days' journey from Chorev to Chadash Barnea by the way of Mount Seir." I don't see how that answers him. How is that answering him? Anyway, I'll just leave it as a question for now. Now we turn to 65b. Rebbe bekach atapotreni amar he shoite loiti toy shlema shelanu kesicha betela shelachem. And if Moses, our teacher, was a lover of the Jewish people, why did he delay them in the wilderness for 40 years? The elderly man said to him, my teacher, you dismissed me with this retort? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, fool, and will our perfect Torah not be as worthy as your frivolous speech? Your claim can be easily refuted. Okay, so he continues on. Kasuf echad omer tisperu 50 yom v'katuv echad omer sheva shabbatot timimot tihyena. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai cites a proof that Shavuot does not need to occur specifically on a Sunday. One verse states, even to the morrow of the 7th week you shall number 50 days, and you shall present a new meal offering to the Lord, Leviticus 23:16. And one verse, the preceding one, apparently contradicts this when it says, and you shall count for you from the morrow after the day of rest, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the waving. "7 weeks shall there be complete." Is the festival of Shavuot 7 full weeks after Passover, counting from Sunday through Shabbat 7 times, or is it 50 days after Passover? HaKetzad. Oh, you should count 50 days. You shall number 50 days. You shall count from the day of rest 7 weeks. 7 weeks is 49 days. So how do you number 50 days? Is the festival of Shavuot 7 full weeks after Passover? Or is it 50 days after Passover? Which one is it? HaKetzad kam b'yom tov shechal yos b'Shabbos, kam b'yom tov shechal yos b'emtza Shabbos. The Gemara explains how so. How can one reconcile these two verses? Here, the verse mentions 7 complete weeks. It's referring to a year when the festival of Passover occurs on Shabbat. In such a year, the 50-day period between Passover and Shavuot contains 7 complete weeks, Sunday through Shabbat. There, the verse that defines the period as 50 days is referring to a year when the festival of Passover occurs in the middle of the week. So it's 2 different cases. Okay. So the answer is that there's 2 different cases. Shel Rabbi Eliezer, Sofer, Rabbi Yehoshua, Mone, Rabbi Ishmael, Me'amer, Rabbi Yehuda, Lemate, Zdiman. The Gemara presents a mnemonic for several other proofs in refutation of the claim of the Batusians. That of Rabbi Eliezer is number, that of Rabbi Yehoshua is called count, that of Rabbi Ishmael is called from the Omer, and that of Rabbi Yehuda is called below. Okay? Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Ein Tzorich, Hayu Omer, Tisvar Lach, Svira Teluya B'Beis Din, Shem Yodim Lechadesh, Mimachos HaShabbos, Mimachos. Yom Tov, Yotzos Shabbos Bereshis, Shespirosu B'chol Adam. Rabbi Eliezer says the previous proof is not necessary, as the verse states, 7 weeks you shall number for you. From the time the sickle is first put to the standing grain, you shall begin to number 7 weeks. Deuteronomy 16, verse 9. The term for you indicates that the counting of the weeks is dependent upon the decision of the court, as they know how to calculate the new months, upon which the date of the festival depends. Therefore, when the verse states the morrow after the day of rest, Shabbat, Leviticus 23:16, it means the morrow after the festival, as the determination of festivals is by the court. This serves to exclude the interpretation that the counting starts after the Shabbat of creation, meaning a regular weekly Shabbat, whose counting can be performed by every person, not exclusively by the court. Rabbi Yehoshua Omer, Amra Toira Mene Yomim Mekadosh Chodesh, Mene Yomim Mekadosh Atzeres, Ma Chodesh Samach Luyos Nikol, Afatzeres Samach Luyos Nikeres. Citing a different proof, Rabbi Yehoshua says the Torah said to count days, as it is stated a month of days, Numbers 11:20, and then sanctify the month with offerings. And the Torah also said to count days from Passover and then sanctify the festival of Shavuot with offerings. As it is stated, you shall count 50 days, Leviticus 23:16. From this comparison, one can learn that just as the start of the counting toward the new month is known even before it comes, as one begins counting toward the following new month on the first day of the month, so too the start of the counting toward the festival of Shavuot is known even before it comes, as one begins counting toward Shavuot on a fixed day of the month. Im tomar atzeres leolam achar Shabbos haich hech tehei nikeres mishilefneho. The Gemara elaborates, and if you say that the festival of Shavuot always occurs the day after Shabbat, how is the counting toward Shavuot known based on what came before it? If the occurrence of Shavuot depends upon a Shabbat, there would be no specific date after Passover upon which the counting occurs yearly. Rabbi Ishmael Omer, Amra Torah have Omer b'Pesach, ושני הלחם בצרס, מה להלן רגל ותחילת רגל, אף כאן רגל ותחילת רגל. Rabbi Ishmael says there is another refutation of the Baituzian interpretation. The Torah said, bring the Omer offering on the festival on Passover and the 2 loaves on Shavuot. Just as there with regard to the offering on the festival of Shavuot, the 2 loaves are brought at the beginning of the festival, as it lasts only one day. So too here, with regard to the festival of Passover, the Omer must be brought at the beginning of the festival. If the Omer were to always be brought on a Sunday, this might occur at the end of the festival of Passover. For example, if Passover started on a Monday, the Omer would be brought only on the next Sunday at the end of the festival. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Oimer, Ne'emar Shabbos Lemalo v'Ne'emar Shabbos Lemato, Ma lahalon regel u'tchilas regel samuch la, afkan regel u'tchilas regel samuch la. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says there is yet another refutation. It is stated Shabbat above, Leviticus 23:15, with regard to starting the counting of the Omer, and it is also stated Shabbat below, Leviticus 23:16, with regard to the commencement of the festival of Shavuot. Just as there, with regard to the festival of Shavuot, it is stated even until the morrow after the 7th week, you shall number 50 days, and the word Shabbat is referring to the beginning of the festival, and it immediately follows the end of the 7th week. So to here, with regard to the bringing of the Omer, the word Shabbat means festival, so that the Omer offering immediately follows the beginning of the festival on the 2nd day of Passover. According to the Baituzians, the commencement of the counting could start well after the beginning of Passover. For example, if Passover occurs on a Sunday, the counting of the Omer would start only the following Sunday. So by Tuesdays, Shavuos comes out different every year, dependent on what day of the week Passover is on. There's no set date for Shavuot. Tanu Rabbanan, Usufardim lachem, shetehei svira lechol echad ve'echad. The sages taught in the Braita, the verse states, and you shall count for you, from the morrow after the day of rest, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the waving, 7 weeks, there shall be complete. Leviticus 23:15. The phrase, and you shall count for you, teaches that the mitzvah of counting is not a communal obligation. Rather, there should be accounting by each and every person. Mimachas Shabbos, mimachas Yom Tov, or eno ela mimachas Shabbos Bereshis. Rav Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, Harehu Omer tisperu 50 yom. Kol sviros shata sofer, lo yehu ela 50 yom. The Braita continues from the morrow after the day of rest, Shabbat. This means from the morrow after the festival of Passover. Perhaps this is not the meaning of the verse, but rather it means after the Shabbat of creation, meaning Sunday. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says this cannot be correct, as the verse states, even until the morrow after the 7th week, you shall number 50 days. Leviticus 23:16. This teaches that all the countings that you count shall be only 50 days. V'im tomar mimachras Shabbos Bereshis פעמים שאתה מוצא 51 ופעמים שאתה מוצא 52 53 54 55 56. The Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda elaborates, and if you say that the clause from the morrow after the day of rest is referring to the Shabbat of creation, sometimes you will find a count of 51 days from the first day of Passover, which is the date that the count began the previous year until Shavuot. Sometimes you'll find 52, or 53, or 54, or 55, or 56, because it's a different day every year. So you don't have a set day for Shavuot. For example, in 1 year, Passover occurs on Shabbat. The count of the Omer would start on Sunday, 16th of Nisan. And Shavuot would occur 50 days later. That's great. But another year, what if Passover occurs on a Friday? The counting starts on a Sunday, and then Shavuot would occur this year 51 days from the 16th of Nisan. If Passover occurs on a Thursday, and the counting begins on the following Sunday, Shavuot will occur 52 days from the 16th of Nisan. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beser Omer Eino Tzarach. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beser says that proof is not necessary. Okay, we'll stop here. It's a very interesting topic.